What is up, Division 2 agents? This is Gamer4Life back with another Division 2 video. In this video, I just wanted to go over the patch notes for Phase 2 of the PTS, which is going to have some changes from the first PTS, as well as showcasing the new gear, the weapons, all the exotics, named items that we're going to be getting in this new season. Now, I'm just going to go over all of the pieces just to get these patch notes out there for you guys. I'm not really going to be giving my opinion on anything right now, but definitely leave you guys' opinions on all of this in the comments, and we can definitely have a discussion down there, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be long patch notes. So I want to get through it as quickly as possible. So we can see the size without PTS build is 94 gigs, and with the build already is 12.62 gigs. Start time for me is 7 a.m. Eastern. In the US, that would be 6 a.m. Central and 4 a.m. Pacific. And then the end date is on Monday, January 22nd at the same time. Alright, so let's get into this. We can see the new gear. Let's see, Palisade still works. New brand set, 1 piece plus 10% armor on kill, 2 piece plus 60% health, and 3 piece plus 1 skill tier. Name chest and backpack, Combuster for the new chest. Talent is perfectly explosive delivery. Whenever you throw a skill 1.5 seconds after landing, it creates an explosion, damaging enemies within 5 meters. Afterwards, explosions will occur every 5 seconds. Damage scales with skill tier, dealing 25 to 100% damage of a concussion grenade. Applies to remote pulse, turrets, hives, explosive seeker, cluster seeker, mender seeker, decoy, and all traps. Named backpack, Proxy. Talent is perfectly tamper proof. So I did say backpack, because isn't tamper proof on the chest? Okay, anyway, perfectly tamper proof. Enemies that walk within 3 meters of your hive, turret, remote pulse, or decoy are shocked. Arm time 2 seconds, cooldown per skill 8 seconds. New gear set, Aegis? I don't know. But anyway, 2-piece equipped gives plus 70 health. Okay, so we have 60 health on the brand set. So it looks like they are prioritizing health in this update. So 2-piece plus 70% health, 3-piece, 15% total armor, 4-piece that has this talent Stoic. Get 3% damage resistance for every enemy that is targeting you. The bonus is multiplied by 1.x, where X is the number of agents in your group. Okay. Chest and backpack talents. Chest, talent, deceit. Enemies targeting your decoy also count towards the Stoic damage reduction bonus. Then the backpack, polyethylene plating. Increase Stoic damage resistance bonus from 3% to 4%. Then we have some new exotic gloves, rugged gauntlets. Talent is iron grip, minus 50% recoil penalty when hip firing, and minus 50% recoil penalty when blind firing from cover. So they're bringing hip firing back, and it was already pretty accurate blind firing, so that's just going to make it that much better. Alright, moving on. New weapons and talents, exotic weapons. Vindicator exotic rifle. Talent Ortiz assault interface. While scoped, the weapon will highlight a random body section of each enemy. The weapon deals plus 75% weapon damage to highlighted body sections. Yeah, and it doesn't say what rifle that's on. So depending on what rifle it's on, that could be pretty huge. So weapon stats and mods, magazine mod plus 5 magazine size, muzzle plus 10% optimal range, under barrel mod plus 15% weapon stability in the optics, rail 15% weapon accuracy. Mosquito is a new exotic pistol. Talent Mosquito Song. Hitting an enemy applies a stack. Stacks are shared between players. At 10 stacks, the enemy will forcefully target the last player to apply a stack for 5 seconds. Stacks deplete every 5 seconds. Activating the effect on an enemy will remove all stacks from other enemies. So what, okay, you know what, I didn't say, I said I was not going to give my opinion, so definitely we'll talk about that in the comments. Name weapons and talents behind you. Weapon talent. Deal 40% weapon damage to enemies that are not targeting you. Marksman rifle Brutus M700 carbon. Talent perfectly behind you. Deal 60% weapon damage to enemies that are not targeting you. Rifle Whisper M16A2 with the same perfectly behind you talent. Project Resolve Balancing Conflict. Remove the turrets from conflict spawn points. Dark Zone. Going rogue in a normal Dark Zone now has a 3-second activation timer. Activation time for invaded DZ remains 0.75 as before. Talents. Dr. Home. Changed proc condition back to target killed from target headshot. PvP only. Fireworks show. Festive delivery. Concussion grenades become festive grenades. Hitting an enemy with a festive grenade will cause explosions to happen around 2 other enemies within 10 meters, dealing 15% damage. Previously, concussion grenades became festive grenades. Hitting an enemy with a festive grenade will cause explosions to happen around 2 other enemies within 20. Okay, so they halved it. Unbreakable. Talent changed, reverted back to 50%, 55. Armor repaired, PvP. Right? System corruption, 4-piece bonus changed to 2%, bonus damage from 1%. So system corruption got a nice little boost. Cool. Intimidate. Each stack increases total weapon damage by plus 4% damage from 5%. So Intimidate got a nerf. Weapons. Note the list below includes the changes from phase 1 of the TU20 PTS and updates made after feedback review. All exotic weapons' third attribute will be reconfigurable. The Carbine 7 and the Stoner will no longer drop with preset talent. Alright, so all the changes: assault rifles, ACR and ACRE plus 10% weapon damage. And then the AKM and all of the different type of AKMs is plus 8% weapon damage. See the AUG A3, CQC, Invisible Hand, and Bighorn plus 10% weapon damage. CTAR 21, the Rail Splitter plus 10% or plus 10 mag size. F2000, the Replica and the Shield Splinter plus 50 RPM and plus 10 mag size. FAL and all of the different FALs plus 5% weapon damage. Military G36, G36C, again, all of its different G36 type weapons, plus 50 RPM. Honey Badger, Savage Wolverine, plus 5 mag size. NK16 and all of its different variants, plus 10% weapon damage. Military P416, Custom P416, Glory Days, Eagle Bear, plus 50 RPM, PDR, Test Subject, Capacitor, plus 10% weapon damage. Not bad. Again, I know I'm not giving my opinion on a lot of this stuff, but trust me, we will have, if you guys want to, a discussion in the comments. I'll put down there, you know, the different things that I like and what I'm looking forward to and all that good stuff. Alright, so the LMGs, basically, you can see the blue screen and what is the other one? Iron Lung. So the blue screen and the Iron Lung is getting plus 10% weapon damage. All of the other LMGs is 20%. Alright, SMGs, AUG A3 Para XS, Enhanced AUG, Tactical AUG A3P, Tactical AUG A3P Replica, plus 10% weapon damage, plus 25 RPM. So the Banshee and the Grudge, plus 5% weapon damage, plus 50 RPM. MP5 and its different variants, plus 6 mag size. MP7 Swap Chain, plus 5 weapon damage, plus 50 RPM. So the Please T821 and its different variants, plus 10% weapon damage. Then the converted SMG9, converted SMG9A1, and replica plus 50 RPM. M1928 Tommy gun, Slayer grown great plus 10% weapon damage. Please and its variants plus 10% weapon damage. Okay, moving along to rifles. ACR, SS plus 10% weapon damage. Ruthless, Merciless plus 10% weapon damage. UIC-15 Mod 2 plus 30% weapon damage. M16A2 Replica and Whisper plus 30% weapon damage. MDR Battle Rifle Replica Vindicator plus 10% weapon damage plus 20 RPM. Military MK17 Police MK17 Replica and Everlasting Gaze plus 25% weapon damage. SIG 716 Replica CQB Artist Tool plus 25% weapon damage. Ravenous plus 10% weapon damage. USC .45 ACP and the Replica plus 10% weapon damage. Resolute MK47 Harmony plus 20% weapon damage. And Marksman Rifle M700 Carbon and its different variants plus 17% weapon damage in 8 optimal range. Model 700 Replica Ekim's Long Stick plus 25% weapon damage in 8 optimal range as well. Convert SRS A1, SRS A1 Replica, Pinprick 30% weapon damage, Mantis plus 15% weapon damage, SR1 and its different variants 30% weapon damage. See, Paratrooper SVD, Surplus SVD, Commando Dread Edict plus 15% weapon damage in the Tactical .308, Scalpel plus 20 RPM plus 8 optimal range. Brand sets. Note, the images below depicting gear balancing show the overall changes implemented. They include the changes from phase 1 of the TU-20 PTS and updates made after feedback review. Alright, so we'll go over the brand set bonuses that it's getting a buff. So you can see the Alp Summit, the 2 and 3 piece is going from 20 skill duration and 10 skill haste to 30 skill duration and 30 skill haste. China Light going from 10% skill haste and 10% status effects for the 2nd and 3rd piece bonus to 20% skill haste and 20% status effects. Electric, the 3 piece is going from 10% SMG damage to 30% SMG damage. Interesting. Empress International, 2 piece, 10% skill damage to 10% skill damage. I don't know if they just reverted it back to 10% or if they meant to put 20 here like it was last time. But if not, then they changed it back, to 10%. So it's basically the same. All right, Hana-Yu, 10% skill damage, 5% weapon damage to 10 skill damage. So they did that again. And 10% weapon damage. So they did buff the weapon damage. I'm guessing this means they reverted it back to 10% because this was 20% as well, if I'm not mistaken. All right, Murakami, 2 and 3 piece bonuses, 20% repair skills and 10% skill damage, increased to 30% repair skills and 20% skill damage. Richter and Kaiser, from 10% explosive resistance and 20% repair skills to 25 explosive resistance and 40% repair skills. 2 and 3 piece bonus, 10% status effects, 20% skill duration to 15% status effects and 40% skill duration. Cool. So that is those. On to the next one. We can see the changes is the 1 and 3rd piece, 10% health and 10% hazard to 30% health and 20% hazard. Then Badger Tough from 10% armor on kill to 15% armor on kill. Bellstone, 20% incoming repairs to 40% incoming repairs. And then Brazos from 20% max size to 50. Wow. That was because the change was to 30%. Now they even upped it more to 50. So moving on, Heliguard from 10% health and 1% armor regen to 60% health. So again, they are prioritizing health in this update, man. It's a lot of health that we're getting. 60% health and 2% armor regen. So this was 3% in the first PTS. They brought it back to 2%. Then the golden gear from 1% armor regen, 5% total armor to 1.5 armor regen. So this was nerfed as well because in the first PTS it was 2% and now they changed it to 1.5% armor regen and of course 10% armor, total armor. Hasberg from 15% marksman rifle damage and 10% status effects to 20% marksman rifle damage and 20% status effects. Lingmo, 10% skill health, 15% LMG damage to 25 skill health and 30% LMG damage. And then the Usaina Gattaca from 10% hazard protection to 20%. Right, and then last but not least for these gear pieces, the Seska from 10% health, damn, to 90% health. Goodness, dude. So they take away, they cap the health to give us all of this extra percentage health. All right, let me just move on. 90% health. 90% health is crazy though. Can't even talk now. Douglas and Harding from 20% weapon stability and 20% weapon accuracy to 30% weapon stability and 50% weapon accuracy. Nice. I mean, not that people are going to be using a 3-piece of Douglas and Harding, but you know. Fenris from 20% reload speed, 20% stability to 30% reload speed and 50% stability. Grupo from 15% explosive damage to 20% explosive damage. Petrov from 10% weapon handling, 20% ammo capacity to 15% weapon handling and 50% ammo capacity. Overlord, 20% weapon accuracy, 10% weapon handling to 30% weapon accuracy and 30% weapon handling. And lastly, Walker and Harris from 5% damage to health to 10% damage to health. So that's all of the gear piece changes for the brand sets. Now, what do we have here? Alright, so unchanged is Y'all Gear, Araldi Holdings, Providence Defense, and Sokolov Concern. Alright, guess those were powerful enough. Improvements, Tinker Station. Note, the recalibration station has been reworked. Receiving a streamlined flow UI changes and a new name, Tinker Station. Okay, so the mobile tinkering. The functionalities of the Tinker Station, that's gonna take time getting used to calling Tinker Station. Anyway, Tinker Station can also be accessed on the go from the inventory in 2 ways. By pressing M, I guess this is on PC. While nothing is highlighted, the player will enter the general tinkering menu. By pressing M while a specific item is selected, it will allow the player to make tinkering operations directly to the highlighted item. Expertise. No changes made following TU20 PTS Phase 1 can be accessed from the mobile tinkering menu. Alright, recalibration and optimization. Merge both functions into one tab. Tinker. Optimization can no longer be done up to a value higher than the value stored in the player's recalibration library. Optimization upgrade steps changed. The player will no longer pay the full price for an incomplete optimization step. Example. The user has a plus 10% SMG damage in the library and is trying to optimize an SMG that currently has plus 9.7% SMG damage. Since the highest value on the player's library is plus 10%, they will only be able to upgrade by 0.3% and will only pay the material price for the 0.3% portion instead of paying the full price of an upgrade step. Okay, that's cool. Recalibration library. No changes made following TU20 PTS Phase 1. It has received UI improvements and can be accessed from the mobile tinkering menu. Combat gear lock. When joining another player session, the player joining now has a 1-minute grace period before the combat gear lock applies. Gear lock no longer in effect in shooting range. The player can now swap between concussion grenades and the current specialization grenades while in combat. Rogue players in Dark Zone are no longer always gear locked, but the combat gear lock still applies. This means that rogue players in the Dark Zone will be gear locked during combat, as opposed to PTS 1 when the lock was applied for the whole duration of the rogue status. Okay. Descent. Added Descent outfits in the NSA store, all 4 different color variants. Added Vindicator exotic in the NSA store. Descent Talents Pool rotation now has its own menu where the current rotation and available talents can be checked. The button prompt for the menu can be found within Descent entrance, AR window. The duration of the rotation and its name is now also displayed. Projects. Daily project. The reward list now also includes 1 exotic component. Weekly project rewards list also include 3 exotic components. Not bad. Then known issues festive delivery talent description is not updated for PvP. Alright, so that is the patch notes for the PTS coming out tomorrow. Again, we can have a discussion in the comments if you guys want. I'll go over some of the stuff that I'm looking forward to. Like I said, I wasn't gonna really comment on a lot of things to try to make this video as short as possible since I know the patch notes are pretty long. So yeah, there you go. Let me know what you guys think about all of these changes, the new weapons, the new exotics, the new named items, all that beautiful stuff. That's gonna do it for this video, my friends. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe out there. And as always, my YouTube family, take it easy.